What if I told you the most psychologically complex parents in modern history aren't millennials? They're not boomers either. They're the quiet middle child of generations, Generation X. Born roughly between 1965 and 1980, Gen X parents are raising today's teens and young adults across the United States and the United Kingdom. And they're doing it with a mindset shaped by divorce spikes, economic recessions, the rise of technology, and a culture that sent one very clear message: you're on your own. And that message changed everything. Because here's the paradox. The generation that was raised independently is now parenting in an age of hyper-monitoring, digital danger, and emotional awareness. How does that contradiction play out at home? That's where it gets fascinating. Let me ask you something. Did your Gen X parent ever say, "I had to figure it out myself"? Or maybe, "You'll be fine"? Sounds harmless, but psychologically it reveals an entire framework. And by the end of this video, you may never see Gen X parenting the same way again. To understand Gen X parents, we have to understand their childhood. They were the latchkey generation. In both the US and UK, divorce rates surged through the 70s and 80s. Many Gen X kids came home to empty houses. They made their own snacks, solved their own problems, learned independence early. Psychologists call this premature self-reliance. Now here's the twist. What happens when children raised on emotional independence become parents? Two dominant psychological patterns emerge. The first is what we could call the Resiliency Builder. Gen X parents often believe struggle builds strength, because for them, it did. They survived analog childhoods and digital adulthoods. They adapted from landlines to smartphones, from job stability to economic uncertainty, from predictable career paths to global competition. So when their child struggles, their instinct isn't always to remove the obstacle. It's to let them face it. That can build resilience. But here's the uncomfortable cliffhanger. It can also create emotional distance. And in today's world, where anxiety and depression rates among teens in the US and UK are at record highs, emotional distance carries consequences. So are Gen X parents too detached? Or are they preparing their children for a harsh reality? Hold that tension, because the second pattern complicates everything. The low-drama strategist. Unlike millennials, Gen X parents tend to avoid broadcasting emotions. They value privacy. They don't necessarily post long parenting philosophies online. In fact, many of them grew up distrusting large institutions, media, corporations, even government systems, because they witnessed broken promises and instability firsthand. This creates a parenting style rooted in realism. Less helicopter, less performative, more pragmatic. But here's where it gets psychologically complex. They are raising children in a hyper-connected world. Social media comparison, cyberbullying, AI, online identity pressures. Meanwhile, they grew up without constant digital surveillance or algorithm-driven validation. Imagine trying to parent a world you never experienced. It's like teaching someone to navigate a city that didn't exist when you were young. That gap creates tension. And tension creates fear. Not loud fear, quiet fear. The fear of losing control in a digital age. Which explains something fascinating. While Gen X parents promote independence offline, many become highly vigilant online, monitoring screen time, worrying about mental health, trying to understand apps they barely use themselves. It's almost ironic, isn't it? The figure-it-out-yourself generation now Googling how to set parental controls. And here's the deeper layer most people overlook. Gen X parents are squeezed. Between aging baby boomer parents who may need financial or physical care, and emotionally expressive Gen Z children who openly discuss anxiety, identity, and boundaries. They are caretakers in two directions. That pressure builds a unique psychological profile, stoic, adaptable, but often exhausted. Have you noticed how rarely Gen X parents talk about burnout? Exactly. They don't advertise their stress, they internalize it. And internalized stress doesn't disappear, it transforms. Sometimes into quiet irritability, sometimes into emotional shutdown, sometimes into overcorrection, becoming ultra-supportive to avoid repeating their own childhood experiences. And this is where the story shifts, because Gen X parenting isn't frozen in time, it's evolving. Mental health awareness is rising in both the US and UK. Therapy stigma is declining. Conversations about trauma, attachment styles, and emotional validation are becoming mainstream. And Gen X parents are adapting. Again. This is the generation that survived change by evolving. So what does this mean for their children? It means we are witnessing a hybrid parenting model emerging in real time.